From a Rhodes Scholar and Army captain to a groundbreaking musician and actor, Kris Kristofferson's life was a series of daring transformations. Behind his success in country music and Hollywood lay struggles with addiction, fractured relationships, and declining health. What fueled his rise and how did he overcome his darkest moments? Explore the compelling story of a man who turned life's challenges into a timeless legacy. Kris Kristofferson was born on June 22, 1936, in the border town of Brownsville, Texas, a place where the sizzling southern sun meets the rugged spirit of the American frontier. His parents, Marianne and Lars Henry Kristofferson, were an intriguing pair. His father was a distinguished United States Air Force general, whose Swedish-born parents had left their homeland for the promise of a new life in America. From an early age, Kris felt the weight of his father's expectations, firmly steering him toward a military career. Little did anyone know that this path, while it would shape his discipline and tenacity, would ultimately collide with his passion for music and poetry, two influences that would redefine him in country music forever. Even as a teenager, Kris exhibited a fierce competitive streak. He excelled as a Golden Gloves boxer, carving out a place for himself among the best amateur fighters in his region. But his ambitions weren't strictly physical. By the time he enrolled at Pomona College in California, Kris had established himself as a determined scholar and an athlete. His academic achievements shone so brightly that they led him across the Atlantic on a prestigious Rhodes scholarship to study literature at Oxford University. It was in England that he immersed himself in classic poetry, particularly the works of William Blake, planting the seeds for his future as a gifted lyricist. Upon returning to the United States, Kris followed in his father's footsteps by joining the Army. Thanks to his discipline and unwavering dedication, he quickly climbed the ranks and earned the title of captain. One of his most noteworthy assignments during his service was training as a helicopter pilot, a skill that would later intersect famously, though infamously at times, with his passion for music. However, despite his successes in uniform, conflict brewed at home. Kris's mother disapproved of his eventual decision to leave the military for the uncertain life of a musician, and they famously did not speak for a staggering 25 years. Transitioning from an Army captain to a struggling songwriter was no walk in the park, and financial stability often felt like a distant dream. Determined to break into the music industry, Kris juggled a string of odd jobs around Nashville. Among them was a stint as a janitor at Columbia Recording Studios, where he hoped the passing chatter of country stars might lead to his big break. His persistence eventually paid off in a way that could have come straight out of a movie. Legend has it, Kris once piloted a helicopter right onto Johnny Cash's lawn just to deliver his demo tapes. The bold move worked. Not only did Johnny Cash take notice, but he went on to record Sunday Morning Coming Down, a track that skyrocketed in popularity and earned the title of 1970 Song of the Year from the Country Music Association. That breakthrough launched Kris into the heart of country music's elite, solidifying his status as one of the genre's most influential songwriters. Yet with fame came an accompanying darkness. Kris became notorious for his heavy drinking. His friends watched as he slipped deeper into alcohol dependence, sometimes consuming up to 1.5 bottles of Jack Daniels a day. In a shocking incident that nearly turned fatal, he passed out at the controls of his helicopter, costing him his pilot job. His struggles with alcohol would haunt him for years, straining his personal relationships, especially his marriage to singer Rita Coolidge. Although known to have been married 3 times over his lifetime, 2 names surfaced prominently in public records around this period: Rita Coolidge, who bore him 2 children, and another relationship with Frances Mavia Beer, which also produced 2 children before ending in divorce. Later on, Kris married Lisa Myers, finding more stability and fathering additional children, bringing the total to 5 or more, depending on various accounts. Professionally, Kristofferson's music career took off in the late 1960s. He wrote an early version of Me and Bobby, later completed and famously recorded as Me and Bobby McGee. Roger Miller recognized the song's potential and started recording it even before Kris had fully finished writing it, turning it into a hit in 1969. The track then found another surge in popularity when Don Williams recorded it in 1970. Around the same time, Janis Joplin's powerful rendition brought the song mainstream rock acclaim. While Me and Bobby McGee was working its way through the charts, Johnny Cash recorded Kristofferson's deeply personal Sunday Morning Coming Down, a song that captured raw emotions in a way few country tracks had before. It earned the 1970 Country Music Song of the Year award and helped Kris clinch the Country Music Songwriter of the Year award. Building on this momentum, he released his first solo album, simply titled Kristofferson, in 1970. That debut reached number 10 on the U.S. country music chart, marking the beginning of a prolific run. Between 1970 and 2010, he released 17 studio albums and dozens of singles, showing a remarkable range as both a lyricist and performer. In 1971, Kris received his first Grammy, validating his growing stature in the music industry. Around the same period, he made his Hollywood debut in The Last Movie, directed by Dennis Hopper. Acting quickly became a second career. His standout performance came in 1976 with the movie A Star is Born, for which he earned a Golden Globe Award for Best Actor. From that point on, dozens of acting roles followed, allowing him to fuse music and film in a way that broadened his artistic influence well beyond country radio. Kris Kristofferson's path into the spotlight took another dramatic turn when he famously landed a helicopter in Johnny Cash's backyard to pitch a song he had written. Cash was so impressed that he agreed to record it, especially after watching Kris perform at the famed Troubadour in Los Angeles. Around that same time, Kristofferson appeared in the 1971 movie Cisco Pike, which helped him catch the eye of director Sam Peckinpah. Peckinpah decided to cast him as Billy the Kid in Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, further anchoring Kris's reputation as both a musician and an actor. While gearing up for a role in Semi-Tough, he trained alongside Burt Reynolds. Both men had excelled at college football, with Reynolds even entertaining professional prospects for a while. In 1976, Kristofferson landed the leading male role in A Star is Born after Elvis Presley turned it down. Elvis later recorded one of Kris's compositions, reflecting a mutual respect between the two icons. Around this period, Kris made headlines for his appearances in both Playgirl and Playboy. The Playboy feature was particularly bold, showing him alongside co-star Sarah Miles to promote the sailor who fell from grace with the sea. He later admitted he had been drunk during the shoot and barely remembered posing. His Playgirl spread came as a friendly favor for Jane Fonda, who was publicizing their 1981 film, Rollover. In 1979, Kristofferson was slated to star in Hanover Street, but he opted to go on tour instead, leaving the role to Harrison Ford. Then in 1982, he emerged as one of the many names floated for the part of John Rambo in First Blood. Some producers hoped Sam Peckinpah's involvement might reignite interest, but the project eventually went to Sylvester Stallone. Meanwhile, Kris's brother Kris Kristofferson, a U.S. Navy fighter pilot who served in the Vietnam War, shared a parallel military background with him, though their experiences diverged significantly. Around this time, The journalist Sheehan wrote about the unintended consequences of America's involvement in Vietnam, suggesting that the Vietnamese resistance would never cease until foreign forces withdrew completely. This perspective added yet another layer to the complex discussions happening among veterans like Kris and his brother, who had lived through that era's turbulence. Despite these shifts in direction, Kristofferson stayed active in music, earning an Academy Award nomination for Best Original Music Score for the 1984 film Songwriter. That same year, he joined up with fellow country luminaries to form the supergroup The Highwaymen, an alliance that included Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, and Johnny Cash. Their collaborative efforts broadened the reach of outlaw country and solidified Kris's status as a key figure in the genre. By the mid-1990s, Kristofferson's career saw another major boost when he portrayed the shady Sheriff Charlie Wade in John Sayles' critically acclaimed 1996 film Lone Star, co-starring Matthew McConaughey. On the heels of that success, Hollywood continued to offer him high-profile roles, including turns in the Blade Vampire trilogy, the family saga A Soldier's Daughter Never Cries, the dark revenge flick Payback with Mel Gibson, and Tim Burton's remake of Planet of the Apes. Even as he diversified his acting career, Kris kept one foot in the recording studio. During the 2000s and 2010s, he released new music that performed remarkably well on the charts. This Old Road, Closer to the Bone, and Feeling Mortal, his 28th album, all secured spots in the top 40 on the country charts. Outside these cinematic and musical endeavors, Kristofferson never fully shook off his restlessness. He continued to tour off and on, sometimes reflecting on his past battles with alcoholism and the personal toll it had taken on his relationships. Over the years, he gradually found healthier ways to balance the demands of public life with his family commitments. In interviews, he has often acknowledged regrets, but also credited those hard-earned life lessons with sharpening the emotional honesty of his songwriting. On a more recent note, health concerns emerged that shed new light on the earlier chapters of his life. When Kris publicly announced that he was grappling with memory issues akin to Alzheimer's, specifically a form of pugilistic dementia partly attributed to his time as a football player and boxer, fans feared he might disappear from the spotlight altogether. Then came an unexpected twist. Medical tests revealed he was actually battling Lyme disease. Switching from dementia medication to a targeted Lyme disease treatment brought a dramatic improvement. While he still has occasional memory lapses, the overall turnaround in his health has allowed him to keep performing and recording. An incredible relief for both him and his longtime admirers. Even as he navigated these health challenges, Kristofferson's influence never waned. He was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2004, cementing his standing among country music's all-time greats. 10 years later, in 2014, he received a Lifetime Achievement Grammy Award. That same decade, he continued touring widely, surprising many who thought his active road days might be behind him. Meanwhile, a massive box set collection, the Complete Monument and Columbia Album Collection, came out in June 2016, showcasing the depth of his early discography. Though well into his 70s and 80s, Kris remained active. He periodically reunited with fellow Highwaymen and longtime friends for select performances. In addition, he was recognized by major organizations for his contribution to American music, culminating in his induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2004. By 2016, he appeared in the Western film Traded, adding yet another title to a varied resume that now spans decades. In subsequent years, He took on fewer roles and eventually retired quietly from touring around 2021, choosing to spend more time with his family and manage a few health issues that surfaced later in life. Financially, Kris has also done quite well for himself. His net worth is estimated at around $160 million. As the sole author of most of his hit songs and having starred in numerous films, Kristofferson built a fortune that underscores both his prolific songwriting and enduring movie career. Yet in interviews, he often comes across as grounded, even humble, attributing much of his success to good timing, supportive peers, and an unquenchable drive to tell compelling stories through music and film. In the end, Kris Kristofferson's personal journey resonates because it is marked by contradictions. A Rhodes scholar who felt pulled into honky-tonk bars, a disciplined army captain who later battled severe alcoholism, and a man who once risked family bonds to chase an unlikely dream. Today he continues to tour and connect with audiences new and old, his memory scarred but not broken. For those who have followed him through each twist and turn, both artistic and personal, Kris stands as proof that it is possible to forge meaningful art and relationships out of life's messier moments, so long as you're willing to confront them head on.